Hey guys, it's Tombox here, and I'm Tombox Sensei here today. I'm going to be covering the rulings regarding card names, card-specific names versus card name families versus original name, all under the context of Cyber Dragons, because Cyber Dragons recently got more cards coming from, well, Cybernetic Horizons. Not too recent, I suppose, but I guess with that in mind, we're also going to be reviewing Call by the Grave, because Call by the Grave, let's just get that one out there. A lot of people soft cheat with Call by the Grave, and I don't want you to be one of those guys that gets screwed over because someone misinterpreted the card and then got himself a win. That's not how it's supposed to be, and I don't like seeing people do that. So I wanted to get some clarification, and a huge shout outs to the ruling zone. I got Swift Stratos. He gave me a very clear definition of Call by the Grave because I seem to explain it poorly, so I'm going to use his definition there. And also, in this video, we will be talking about Vampire Fraulein. Why? Because that was a viewer requested video down in the comment section below from the previous video. So we'll be talking about that. We'll just break down the card so that it's easier for us to understand if you guys don't really understand it. There are quite a few effects on that card, and I just don't want you guys to get mixed up on how it works. Okay, so huge shout out to Patreons. They keep this channel running live and strong. Love you guys. Working on a new outro to showcase everyone that's part of the Patreon family. So you guys are my Patreon fam, Patreon bros. And if you want to help support this, let me travel around and meet you guys at events. Well, you guys can help support this channel. Of course, you guys get some exclusive and some tips from me on Patreon. That being said, let's get to it. And for the very first misplay that people seem to have overlooked a lot, it's not like they do it on purpose. If you're doing it on purpose, well, maybe you should do some time and get it banned for a little bit. But that being said, it is people should not be using Cyber Dragon effect monsters to go into the Nightmare package. In fact, why are you running the Nightmare package to begin with anyway? I guess that you do have a couple monsters in there that in your deck that you can use for Nightmare package, but using Cyber Dragon effect monsters, most of them change their names. And one thing we do know about the Nightmare package and also Saryuja is that they require monsters of different names as the recipe. If you don't match the recipe, you can't do it. And one thing about Cyber Dragons that prevent that is that most Cyber Dragon effect monsters, including the Link Monster Seeger, on the field and in the graveyard, they change their name. They become Cyber Dragon. Once they become Cyber Dragon, well, their name is now Cyber Dragon, and if you try to use a regular Cyber Dragon and a Cyber Dragon Verts or maybe a Core, if you try to use those guys and you go into, say, a Nightmare monster, you, sir, have committed an illegal play. And you have soft cheated your opponent or just straight up cheated your opponent of victory. But I know some of you Cyber Dragon players are like, oh, hey, why are you even running this crap anyway? You already have your own form of a Phoenix, and that is true. But the reason why people go into the Phoenix is so that they can clear a back row firsthand so that the Chimera-Tech Rampage Dragon doesn't die. So it doesn't get like, oh, it gets TT'd and gets completely board wiped, you know, stuff like that. They're trying to avoid that, so they clear the back row a bit earlier and then go into a Unicorn to clear another card. But the problem was they couldn't have gone to that Phoenix anyway, so that if they did summon, use a Power Bond and summoned into, say, the Rampage Dragon, and that Rampage Dragon dies, well, then the OTK kind of dies with it. So it was just an insurance policy almost. But that insurance policy is now voided because that's not possible. So that's the first thing. Cyber Dragons, they change their name into Cyber Dragons, and therefore, same names cannot go into Nightmares. That's it. That's the first one. The next ruling I'm going to be talking about is going to be regarded to the monster-specific name versus a monster archetype name. So, in other words, the difference between a Cyber Dragon and a Cyber Dragon monster, okay? So there's a bit of a difference for that, and that difference, it kind of matters because people complained a lot when people played Toon Cyber Dragons, like, oh, you can't make anything with that. So in the context of the Chimera-Tech family, we're going to put this debate into rest so that you guys all are on the same page about how monster card names work. So regarding monster card names, so we have the two sides. We have the OG stuff and we have the new stuff. New stuff, they require Cyber Dragon monsters. Old stuff, they require specifically a Cyber Dragon. How do you tell the difference? Well, look after the quotations of the monster card name. If it states monster, then as long as the monster in question contains the word Cyber Dragon in anywhere in their name, then they are considered a Cyber Dragon monster. Whereas if it specifically states Cyber Dragon with no monster after it as like almost like a suffix, then it is requesting for the specific monster of Cyber Dragon, nothing more, nothing less. Okay, so in terms of the OG Chimera Tech stuff, Fortress Dragon and Over Dragon, they require one Cyber Dragon plus one or more machine monsters. So in that case, it just means straight up you have to have a Cyber Dragon. And in terms of the Mega Fleet and the Rampage Dragon, they require one Cyber Dragon monster. So therefore, you can use Toon Cyber Dragon Nova, Cyber Dragon Infinity as a part of its recipe. That is possible. That's just the clarification right there. If you're still confused about it, I don't know how to explain it any further, because one requires the specific name, no more, no less, as long as it doesn't state the word monster after the quotation, whereas if it does state monster in the quotation, it could be anywhere in the card text. It's like Lightsworn and Twilight Sworns. Twilight Sworns are still Light Sworns. So there. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I got for that part. So don't like yell at someone just because they're using a Cyber Dragon monster, okay, for Chimera Tech Mega Fleet Dragon. Because if they use Toon Table of Contents and they wipe your extra link, yeah, that's your own fault. Okay, finally we're gonna do the Call by the Grave ruling regarding name changes. Of course, Call by the Grave states target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do, until the end of the next turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and the effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. That being said, here's my question to you guys. What happens when, say, my opponent already has two monsters in the graveyard, a Cyber Dragon Core and a Cyber Dragon, and I have a Call by the Grave set. My opponent proceeds to normal summon out a Cyber Dragon Core and activates the effect. I chain Call by the Grave. Which monster should I target to successfully negate the effects of that Cyber Dragon Core on the field? That's the question. Give it some thought, give it some time, think about it. Cyber Dragon Core does change its name in the graveyard to Cyber Dragon, and Cyber Dragon Core also changes its name on the field. So which monster do I banish? Do I banish the Cyber Dragon or the Cyber Dragon Core? Here's the answer. The answer is you banish the Cyber Dragon Core in the graveyard. Because of the fact that Call by the Grave does state that it's checking for the original name, right now I am assuming that it is checking for the original name of both the monster being banished and also the monster being on the field as well. It's just bypassing the name change and looking specifically at the original name. This thing has actually come up quite a bit during the Spiral era, because Spiral Tough, Spiral Double Helix, they changed their name to Spiral Super Agent when they are on the field. However, their original name still technically exists as another parameter that is not really looked at until, say, well, they're no longer on the field or when they're banished. Because once the cards are banished, their names kind of go back to normal, because only in the graveyard are they considered as super agents, or like for Cyber Dragons, they're considered Cyber Dragons when they're in the graveyard or on the field. But when they're banished, well, the original name of Cyber Dragon Core comes back, and since we're looking at Cyber Dragon Core, original name, therefore Cyber Dragon Core will be negated on the field. One more thing to note about that is that the Cyber Dragon Core on the field, because it is negated, it is no longer considered as a pure Cyber Dragon, because the name changing part of it also gets reverted back to Cyber Dragon Core. So you can't use this monster to go into Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. This is something that came out very minorly, but you force your opponent to burn off their Chimera Tech Mega Fleet a bit faster compared to burning off using their Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon instead. So it's just something to kind of be aware of. That's about it for that particular part. And as for anything else, I think if you guys have any more questions regarding Cyber Dragons and name changes, you can leave it down in the comment section below. But now on to the viewer requested rulings of Vampire Fraulein. We're just going to read the card text and break it down bit by bit. Okay, Vampire Fraulein, level 5 zombie monster. When a monster declares an attack. Okay, it doesn't say which monster declared an attack or belongs to who. I'm guessing if you yourself declare an attack, you can special summon this monster out. That's pretty cool. You can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. Defense only, buddy. Okay, and you can only use this effect of Vampire Fraulein once per turn. Whenever that phrase is attached to any effect, it's referring to the effect previous. So in other words, the summon trigger is only hard once per turn. Once per battle, Oh, that's not once per turn. That's once per battle. That can go on for the entire battle phase for all I care. If your zombie monster battles an opponent's monster during damage calculation, quick effect, of course it's a quick effect, damage calc, so in other words, it only affects attack and defense stats. You can pay life points in multiples of 100 up to 3,000. Your battling monster gains that much attack and defense during that damage calculation only, so it does revert itself back at the end of that battle. So if your opponent battles your monster, you boost something, your monster successfully lives, then your opponent's monster, say, dies or whatever, they can attack that monster again with another monster with the same stat and still can run it over because it goes back to normal and you have to pay the same amount of life to keep it alive. Okay. At the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed any monster by battle, you can special summon them from the graveyard to your field. The timing of this effect is very much like a Gladiator Beast. A Gladiator Beast effect is at the end of the battle phase, similar to at the end of the battle phase for Evenly Match. Same timing there. If this card destroyed any monster by battle, you can trigger this effect, and then you can special summon monsters from your opponent's graveyard to your side of the field. That being said, I guess if we want to talk about any sort of complications, I would say if this card destroyed any monster by battle, say your opponent uses Vampire Fraulein, destroys some of your monster by battle, you use enemy controller, take control of Vampire Fraulein. At the end of the battle phase, you can activate the effect and then you can still special summon the guys that Fraulein destroyed back onto your field. And since you control Vampire Fraulein, they special summon onto your side of the field. That's just a fun thing that you can do to mess it up a little because it doesn't specifically state which graveyard and which side of the, well, it does say which side of the field, so it's going to be the controller's field, of course. And on top of that, regarding the once per battle effect, what happens when a Fraulein battles a Fraulein? I suppose we'll have to go into turn player priority to talk about this. The turn player that declared the attack will have the choice to use the effect first, but they can also choose to pass and let the opponent use the effect. Because, like, I know you guys want to conserve life points, but at this point, it's most likely going to be a crash. But you can choose it to be a maximum crash or a minimum crash. If you choose to be a minimum crash, no one pays life points. If you choose to be a maximum crash, both players pay 3,000 life points. And due to the fact that it's once per battle, once you use your effect, you can't reapply it anymore. However, turn player can also pass priority and then let the opponent choose. However, if the opponent chooses to boost, due to the fact that this is a quick effect, you can chain on top of your opponent's boosting. Therefore, if they paid 15, now you can pay 16. That's why I say it's a 0 or 100 kind of deal. Like, it's 0 or 3,000, sorry. And yeah, so you can steal your opponent's Fraulein if they make a mistake. You can't pay the lower number. If you paid any number lower than the maximum, if you're having a Fraulein versus Fraulein battle, you screw yourself over. If you choose not to pay anything, you can hold on to the effect to chain on top of it later. So that's just smart moves, guys. Don't make a misplay of paying 29 or something just because you want to try to be clever. Unless, of course, you have an attack booster in damage calculation that can also activate just to mess with your opponent a little bit more. That's I think that's it for this card's effect. If you guys enjoyed this particular segment, if you guys have any other requests for another ruling video, leave it down in the comment section below, and the viewer requested stuff will always be covered at the end of the ruling video. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the name changing stuff. Hopefully the name changing stuff isn't too confusing. And well, that's all I got for this video. If you guys enjoy it, hit me up with a thumbs up, hit the subscribe down below. I'm trying to work on a new outro, so yeah, just 2019 is time to upgrade the viewing experience for you guys once again. And as always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. And I also need a new ending catchphrase. If you guys can leave one down below, I would like to hear you out and see what's going on. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job, and you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.